Hope we're live. So, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. It's so lovely to see you and be here to daven with you on this Shabbat evening. I hope everybody had a lovely week and had a fun Purim. I've heard that other people have been like shul hopping around the country to experience different Purim celebrations this year, which we've never been able to do before. So, another silver lining to our rather unusual circumstances this year. So we're going to get going this evening with a little bit of, yes, more ding dong, with a little more Hine Ma Tov. And I'm going to go ahead and share our virtual Siddur for the evening.
Oh, yes, it is. I stand corrected.
And have not muted yourself. Go ahead
Turn mine down.
Can you mute some of us?
and yes, I can. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and share my Siddur. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Let's celebrate sitting virtually together as brothers and sisters tonight.
Yalala, yalala, hine ma tov. Yalala, yalala, umanayi. Yalala, yalala, shever achim. Shever achim gam yachad. Yalala, 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 hine ma tov. Yalala, yalala, umanayi. Yalala, yalala, shever achim. Shever achim gam yachad. Let's light up the world, oh brothers and sisters, together with peace and love. Bring light to this world, oh sisters and brothers, and sing Hine Ma Tov. Yalala, yalala, Hine Ma Tov. Yalala, yalala, umanayi. Yalala, yalala, shever achim. Shever achim gam yachad. Shever achim gam yachad.
I had it and I lost the whole thing.
What?
I had it and it's gone.
Can our usher mute? Okay, there we go. So we're going to continue now with our Shabbat candle blessings. If you have candles with you and would like to light with us, please feel free to do that. And Donna, will you read our kavanah, our intention going into our candle lighting?
Okay. As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our day, be among those who kindle light.
So at this point, you can go ahead and pull out your candles and let's light together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav metzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Now for our blessing over our symbol of joy, our wine, our fruit of the vine. We go ahead and we lift our glasses high and sing, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, b'shabbat kodsho be'ava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lemasei v'reshit, ki hu yom techila lemikrae kodesh, zecher letziat mitzrayim. Kivanu vacharta, beotanu kidashta, mikol hamid. Veshabbat kodshecha, be'ava uvratzon, hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh haShabbat. L'chaim. Or as we said last night, L'mordachayim. And now for our motzi over our challah. There is challah waiting for me upstairs, but I also have lots of leftover hamantashen. I realize there's a different blessing for cookies, but we're just going to include it under bread products for tonight. So if you have your challah, go ahead and place your hands on it, because we touch the things we bless. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'tei avon. All right, and so as promised in our tefillah tidbits that Josh and Molly presented this week, we are going to introduce a new part of Psalm 96, Ya'aloz Sadai. So this is a new tune, and Josh is going to sing it, and feel free to just listen, let it absorb, and we'll do it again in the future.
יעלו שדי וכל אשר בו יעלו שדי איי 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 יעלו שדי וכל אשר בו יעלו שדי איי 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 אז ירננו כל עצי אז ירננו כל עצי אז ירננו כל עצי אז ירננו כל עצי יעלוז שדי וכל אשר בו יעלוז שדי איי 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 יעלוז שדי וכל אשר בו יעלוז שדי איי 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 אז ירננו כל עצי אז ירננו כל עצי אז ירננו כל עצי אז ירננו כל עצי. Now you've heard me sing it twice, so you do know it, even if you've never heard it before. Let's try it once together. יעלוז שדי וכל אשר בו יעלוז שדי איי 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 יעלוז שדי וכל אשר בו יעלוז שדי איי 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 איי.
That was beautiful, Josh. Thank you so much. Now we go into our Lachadodi, and we've reached the point at our Kabbalat Shabbat, our reception of Shabbat that we're about to receive God's presence as our partner, as our beloved for life.
Lecha dodi likra kala pene shaba neka bella shamor vezachor bediburecha hishmianu elam yuchad Adonai echad ushemo echad v'shemu letiferet veletila lecha dodi likra kala pene shaba neka belada likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelecha ki mikor habracha mirosh mikedem nesucha sof ma'aseh b'machshava techila lecha dodi likra kala pene Shabbat neka belada hitoreri kiva orech kumi uri shir dabeiri kavod Adonai elai ichnira chadodi likra kala pene Shabbat neka belada. Now I invite you to stand up. Boi v'shalom atere bala gam besimcha uv'tzahala toch emune am segula boi chala lecha dodi likra kala pene Shabbat neka lecha dodi likra kala pene Shabbat neka bela.
And now that we have received the presence of God and the face of Shabbat, we start with our call to worship, our Baruch Hu. And if you're davening at home with a prayer book, we're on page 28. And if you're able, please rise.
Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai da 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 da. Yai da da. Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai da lai 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 lai. Yai da 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 yai da. Yai da da. Baruch Hu et Adonai. המבורך, המבורך, לעולם ועד ועד. המבורך, המבורך, לעולם ועד.
You may be seated. Let's see. Ed Bolson, since you were the one with the most zingers last night in our in our Megillah reading, will you go ahead and read this for us aloud?
Sure. This is an hour of change. Within it, we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over?
Baruch atah Adonai Hama'ariv.
Hamariv Aravim.
And so now we celebrate the great love that God extends to each and every one of us. A great love that some of us are lucky enough to feel in our lifetimes, and that God has for us always and extends to us at all times.
אהבת עולם, בית ישראל, עמך אהבת. תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת. Let's do it again. אהבת עולם, בית ישראל, עמך אהבת. תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת. כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו, ובהם נגה יומם ולילה. ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל, אוהב עמו ישראל, אוהב עמו ישראל.
And so now we move into our sacred declaration of God's oneness, of our belief in there being some higher power and that it being all unifying and all unified. So go ahead and close your eyes. It's Friday night. We're here together doing something important for our souls. Take a nice deep breath. Just let the weight of your week go. And sing together with us our Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. Let's see. Nancy Letts, would you read this for us in the English? Let me unmute you though. Nancy, could you unmute yourself?
Yes.
There we go. Great.
And what is my lifespan? I'm like one gone out of Egypt. The Red Sea parts, I cross on dry land. 2 walls of water on my right and on my left. Pharaoh's army and his horsemen behind me, before me the desert. Perhaps the promised land too. That is my lifespan.
Thank you, Nancy. And we go into our Song of the Seas, Shirat Hayam, Micha Mocha. If you're davening with us in your Siddur, we're on page 40.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש. נורא תהילות עושה פלא, נורא תהילות עושה פלא. אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקע ים לפני משה ומרים. זה אלינו ואמרו, זה אלינו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד.
So now we rise as we are able for our Amidah, our central tefillah, our central prayer for this Shabbat evening. Adonai tzefatai tiftach ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibur v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim v'Konei Hakol v'Zacher Chasdei Ava v'Imahot ומביאו לה לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים מרופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומדומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת דורותם ברית העולם, ביני ובין בני ישראל. אותי לעולם כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש. יאי די 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 די, יאי די די די, יאי די די די. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש.
We take a few moments now for our own silent prayers on this Shabbat evening, and when you are finished, please feel free to be seated.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו אמן. יא לה 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 לה, יא לה 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 לה, יא לה 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 לה, יא לה 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 לה, יא 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 לה 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 לה. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו אמן. יא לה 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 לה, יא לה 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 לה, יא לה 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 לה, יא לה 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 לה, יא 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 לה 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 לה, ואמרו אמן.
Now, before we turn our thoughts away from our own private prayers tonight, we want to extend those private prayers out to everybody in our community who has asked for our help, asked for us to pray on their behalf for healing of mind, body, or spirit. And I want to include in this list everyone right now suffering with COVID-19, everyone who has gotten a vaccine but has experienced ill effects. Though they be temporary, we're still thinking of their healing and their comfort tonight. Additionally, we want to pray together as a community for Valentina Darchovsky, Azrael Early, Rohan Early, Tara Landry, Myra Masig, Patricia Shapiro, Orly Sherman, Amy Thornton, Deborah Newmans' Castingay, Lindsay Robinson, Laura Armstrong, Stacy Hetzel, Diane Turner, Michael Sirkinpool, Jacqueline Tara Smith, Kalina Suzawa, Deborah Rose, Sid Rubin, Liliana Oxsmith, Hans Wheel, Phil Grinker, Terry Callett, Pam Shane Johnson, Eileen Kreisman, Ronnie Haber, Sherry Schnabel, Carlene Ackerman, Scott Bush, Lisa Bush, Sarah Rose, Mary Ann Witten, Mary Will Height, Beverly Harrison Tonda, Sid Hendrickson, and Joe Trotty. Are there other names?
Asher Hashash, Michelle Yonker,
And so we join together in our Mishaberach prayer, asking for God to bless those who are ill as God had blessed our ancestors. Actually, I have the wrong one up there. Whoops, excuse me.
Mishaberach Avotenu Mekor Habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing. And let us say, Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu bekor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit. And let us say, Amen.
All right, so I'm going to request that everybody, regardless of what kind of view you normally have your Zoom open to, that you go to the gallery view so that you can see one another as we are talking a little bit tonight about this parasha, or not so much this parasha, but sort of the part of the portion of the Torah we're in right now that deals with wandering and kvetching. So kvetching is a nice Yiddish word meaning complaining. There's, grousing. There's more inappropriate ways to put it too. But it's generally what our Israelite ancestors did for 40 solid years going through the desert. And it's part of our heritage. It's our legacy to kvetch. And in some ways, we never really got past the kvetching. And yet we still consider ourselves beloved by God. And the question is, why do we Jews feel like God should love us with all the kvetching we did and we still do? And if nothing else, when you read the Torah, you see all of these amazing miracles that God delivers to our ancient ancestors. And yet the kvetching continues. You've got to ask yourself, why did God put up with that? Why didn't God just say, hey, I've done so much for you already. Haven't I shown my worthiness to be your God? Forget you. I'm done. God doesn't do that. God doesn't write us off. There are some people that the kvetching gets a little too much and God handles, but God never writes off the Jewish people entirely. And I was reminded of this week, that God was able to draw on a very holy quality. In Hebrew, we call it chesed, loving kindness. And it is probably, perhaps, the most godlike quality that each one of us can also have. This week I had an interesting encounter with someone, and it was difficult and uncomfortable and painful. And in so many ways, I thought to myself, doesn't this person realize how hard I've worked on their behalf, how much I want to improve their life and care about their well-being? How could they be kvetching? And then I thought of our ancestors. They had entered unknown territory. They felt lost. They had no sense of comfort. They didn't know what would happen from one day to the next. And in many ways, I think of us as very much like our ancestors wandering in the desert right now. We don't know what's going to happen from one day to the next. We feel untethered. We aren't even with one another to kvetch together. So I want to say, first of all, not only is the kvetching normal, it's very Jewish, but also in some ways, it's catharsis. It's cathartic to be able to just get it out. And what's important about kvetching out loud together in community, as weird as this sounds, is that we realize we're not alone. That other people have tsuris, they have pain and woe. And so I'm going to have you all, if you're willing, join me in a little exercise. I'm going to mention a few tsurises. That's not the right conjugation of it, but some woes that I have experienced within my own family, my own life over these past many, many months, now at the year mark of COVID. And if you have experienced any of these things, I want you to go ahead and stand. And then I'm going to mention other things, not relating them to people, but other things that I've heard of that people are experiencing. And if you have experienced them as well, I want you to go ahead and stand so that we can see what we're all dealing with, that we all have some hurt and something to kvetch about, but also somebody to stand in solidarity with. So if you've experienced in your own family job loss, if anybody in your household has lost a job during COVID, go ahead and stand. If you have felt like you are not as active and can't get out and exercise like you would, go ahead and stand. If you've gained weight during COVID, I know there's some people who've lost weight. Don't rub it in. Kara's smiling. If you've gained any weight, go ahead and stand. If you've had a loved one or a very close friend get COVID-19, please stand. If you feel lonely and isolated, please stand. If you haven't been able to see friends or family members because of the pandemic, please stand. I'm looking around at cameras right now, and I don't see a single person sitting. I know it sounds very trite to say we're all in this together, but more than ever before, we need to call on our own inner sense of chesed, that divine attribute of loving kindness. And you can sit, because although most of us probably are sitting too much, it's another one. But we can call on our own inner sense of chesed with one another. I think what's particularly difficult for all of us right now is, and I've seen this with many, many folks within my family, within my friends, within the congregation, people aren't themselves right now. People are suffering. They're unhappy. They're isolated. They're depressed. They're grouchy. They're kvetchy. And I'm the same. I would like to say that I'm not touched by this, but we all are. Every single one of us. So not only do I encourage you guys all to feel empowered to do a little bit of kvetching, but when you do it, reach out to somebody else. Find a kvetch buddy. Do it with others. Do it in community. Because when we can acknowledge that we're all hurting, it's so much easier to extend that chesed out to other people. So can you hear Ratzon, be that God's will on this Shabbat evening, that we just give each other a little bit more empathy and love tonight. So our board rep, who is going to give us a little bit of a few announcements tonight, is Ed Wolf.
Thanks, Rabbi. Just like to welcome everybody tonight. Thank you for coming. Thanks to Rabbi for a wonderful sermon and great service as usual. Upcoming announcements. We have morning services and Torah study tomorrow morning. Tomorrow at 5 p.m. is the Sisterhood Purim Cocktails and Costumes, which is a co-educational event. On Sunday, March the 7th, TBT is co-sponsoring an immigration discussion with Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal at 1 p.m. And on March 11th at 6 p.m., there will be a tent city community meeting hosted by the city of Bellevue that people are encouraged to participate in. So, Shabbat Shalom to everyone.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Ed. And speaking of kvetching, we need as many TBT members to show up to that community meeting about Tent City as possible, because we need to combat kvetching. We need to show our support and our solidarity to help out our neighbors. And I just wanted to send a little shout out to Kara Rubenstein-Dyerin and Marnie Good, who have done so much to make sure that our guests hopefully will be with us starting April 1st. But I wanted to also share the sign has gone up outside the building that says proposed land use. And I was going to take a picture for you, Kara, and send it to you because I was just like so excited. It is happening. So we're going to go back to our virtual Siddur and move towards the conclusion of our service tonight with Aleinu. And if you're able, please rise. Aleinu leshabach ladon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שהוא שם חלקנו לייחד את שמו, וגור עלינו להמליך מלכותו, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. You may be seated. Our thoughts now turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. On this Shabbat evening, as a community, we mourn for those people who have died at this time in seasons past. Joan Al-Hadef, George Anabaro, Adeline Cohen, William Goff, Brian Greenbaum, Eldo Johnson, Albert Kalisker, Marvin Klass, Walter Lorber, Rose Lee Morris, Zalman Newmark, Fred Rohr, Edith Shapiro, Estelle Scholkoff, Margot Wheel, Hi Weintraub, and Lonnie Wolf. Are there other names? We join now together in ancient words, our Kaddish Yatom, and if you're able to join in solidarity with others in mourning, please rise. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach yortei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayachon uvyomachon uv'chayei dechol beit Israel, ba'gala uvizman kariv v'imru. Amen. Ehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam olamei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitrumam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudasha b'richu. Le'elam en kol birchata v'shirata, tush bechata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Ehei shlam Rabbah min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Israel, ve'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Israel, ve'imru. Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all Israel, to which we say, Amen. You may be seated. We're going to end our service tonight with that beautiful word of the divine nature of loving kindness, and that we all need to build our world from love, and that God will do the same in response.
Olam chesed yibaneh, yadidai-dai-dai-dai. Olam chesed yibaneh, yadidai-dai-dai, yadidai-dai. Olam chesed yibaneh, yadidai-dai-dai, yadidai-dai. Olam chesed yibaneh, yadidai-dai-dai, yadidai-dai. I will build this world from love, yadidai-dai-dai, yadidai-dai. Build this world from love, yadidai-dai-dai, yadidai-dai. And if we build this world from love, yadidai-dai-dai, yadidai-dai, then God will build this world from love, yadidai-dai-dai, yadidai-dai. Olam chesed, olam chesed yibaneh, yadidai-dai-dai, yadidai-dai. Olam chesed yibaneh, yadidai-dai-dai, yadidai-dai. Olam chesed yibaneh, yadidai-dai-dai, yadidai-dai. Olam chesed yibaneh, yadidai-dai.
Before I let you all go, I just wanted to mention we do have a lovely bee mitzvah ceremony tomorrow morning. Penelope Alpert is becoming bee mitzvah, and we hopefully all can join together in celebration with Penelope and her family. And I also wanted to mention that we are in the midst of starting plans for Passover. It's, oh my God, it's almost Pesach. So we would love to have some input from you all on what you would like to see from our virtual Seder this year, and how we can build upon last year's success. Supposedly last year we had over 400 people between the live Zoom and what we did. Just had people joining online from YouTube. It was amazing. So hopefully you'll all join us for Pesach this year. So Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I'm going to turn off the live feed, but you should all stick around and schmooze and kvetch to your heart's content.